Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got Realtor Angela Pierce, and we're going to do a quick video on how to get deals accepted in this crazy environment. Welcome to the channel.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Angela sold me house number 40, the hoarder house. If you haven't seen that video, I'll put a link up here.
That was a major transformation. I know last time we talked, you were considering going to real estate school, and I think you started, right?
I did. I've just finished 3 weeks of class, passed those couple of tests. I've got my state license exam next week, so fingers crossed. So I recently bought house number 41 and number 2. We're working to renovate both of those and bring those online. In addition to that, I have 2 rental houses where people are moving out at the end of the month here. And then I've got another one coming open mid-month next month, which I already have lined up. We've been building a new house since like June of 2020. It's supposed to be finished soon. I'm waiting on my builder to give me a firm closing date so I can lock in my interest rate. And as we'll get into in a minute, those rates have been skyrocketing. Other than that, I've not been doing much.
Well, you make it sound like that's not a lot.
So let's talk big picture a second. So I looked up some stats on Zillow.com, and the U.S. median house value is about $316,000. That's up about 19.3% year over year. And then looking at the annual change in housing inventory, that's down 17.5%. The fastest market growing right now is still Austin, Texas. Last time I looked, Tennessee was about third. Have you seen any stats on Tennessee being up there in the top 5?
Well, I do know we really do mirror Nashville. What you see happening in Nashville, you can usually expect us to be on the tail end of that. But yeah, you nailed it. I mean, prices are going up, inventory continues to go down, and that drives up that competitiveness, and that's where those prices are being affected.
So that's why I've been trying to race to buy as much real estate as I can while rates are still low and houses are continuing to increase. So the other thing going on are interest rates. I saw an article where rates have hit the highest that they've been in over 10 years. Bankrate.com's 30-year fixed mortgage this morning was 5.279 on average. On our new house, I'm actually looking at a ARM product, an adjustable rate mortgage, which we haven't seen much in a while, right? So those are starting to come back. This loan officer said, hey, I've got a brand new product. I told you I was coming out with some new ones, and he's got a 15-year ARM. It's a 30-year term. After 15 years, the rate changes. But I don't think we're going to be in that house 15 years from now. And so the rate that he offered me yesterday was 3.5%. And that's going to lower my payment by something like $600 or something. So we're very interested in that product. Any updates on loans?
Well, I do know that a lot of people are kind of freaked out with these rising interest rates. But really, when you consider that most folks refinance every 3 to 5 years anyways, this isn't a 30-year commitment, this 5%. It's sort of a right now commitment. Mm-hmm. And I think people still should be encouraged to buy, because even with that 5% interest rate that we know is temporary, appreciation is still going to continue. Inventory is going to remain low. Those values are going to continue to increase. And so long-term wealth and income is really sort of the end goal there.
That's a great point. I've told people if you're borrowing at 5%, but houses are appreciating 15%, you're making double that on the upside.
Real estate is always a good investment.
I agree.
You know, Jeremy, the most important tool when trying to get your offer accepted, do you know what that is?
Smashing the like button to help the YouTube algorithm?
That's right.
Yeah. So the other thing going on is inventory is continuing to hit a record low, I want to say.
As we get closer to those summer months where kids are getting out of schools and families are able to kind of adjust and make those changes of location without uprooting kids in the middle of the school year, I do know that inventory is increasing now. And we're seeing more and more houses come on the market, but it's still super low. We're still fist fighting in the driveways.
I've seen it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Where I've shown up to look at a house and the realtor's like, we have a 330, thank you. Like, wait outside. You know, they'll give you that stink eye. It's nuts.
Yeah. And I know a lot of times with multiple offers, what we've been seeing is sellers are setting a deadline, you know, all offers in by Sunday evening, for example. And you think that you have Friday and Saturday and Sunday to see the house and get organized, but then somebody swoops in with something strong and the sellers accept it and that timeline's bust. So it really is just wild times out there.
And so when we spoke, you mentioned about off-market deals, and this was really interesting.
Well, I know a lot of times what we're seeing is these sellers who would normally list their house while they're looking to buy something new. That's a huge risk right now because there's no guarantee you're going to find anything. So a lot of times sellers are holding on to these houses, but what we're doing is these off-market deals, because those then become what the term is pocket listings. So you know that if we can find the right buyer, secure the right price, they would be willing to make that deal. It's all about timing and knowing that they have a place to go.
This is also hurting the inventory because people are hanging on to them. How does that work? Do agents list these? Do they still go through an agent and have a commission? It's just that they never really hit the market for sale?
We're seeing a couple different things. They'll either be negotiated off market and then added to the MLS. A lot of times what you see on the hot sheet on the MLS where new listings come on the market and they're automatically pending or they're immediately closed. Those are those off-market deals that are happening.
Okay.
But then there's also the situation where agents are negotiating leasebacks, where sellers can go ahead and have a buyer commit to the property, close on it, and then allow them 60 days in the home to continue looking for a property. And what that also does is it strengthens that seller's ability and chances in a multiple offer situation because they're not having to utilize a house to sell contingency.
In that scenario, does the seller pay any compensation to live in it for those 60 days, or is it just included in the deal? Do they pay rent for the 2 months?
It can be either way. We're seeing both. A lot of times buyers are utilizing that as a leverage point and allowing those sellers to live 60 days rent-free, whereas there are situations where the sellers do pay.
So let's talk about sellers for a second. I've seen where and heard where sellers are dictating in their selling listing of different loans that they will and will not allow or accept, right? Conventional VA and FHA. Can you tell us about that a little bit?
So sellers are going to prefer cash or conventional. Right now, cash is king. A lot of times it doesn't matter what you offer, what loan type you have. If you're competing with cash, cash is going to win every time. Second best is probably conventional. The rules for appraisal are a little bit looser, whereas with FHA and VA, they're going to be a little bit more strict as far as the condition, health, and safety of the home. And so a lot of times that will leave the seller having to make some repairs that they might not have had to make had they chosen conventional or cash.
So these VA and FHA, do you see those on the listings often, or are those not offered very often?
They're not bad options, and those are still good, strong, solid buyers. A lot of it comes down to relationships and communication and being able to communicate with the listing agent, the strength of your buyer's financing. And there's even situations now where specifically with VA and FHA, lenders are willing to have conversations with the listing agent in order to sort of vouch for their client and to help strengthen the appeal of those financing types.
So sellers are still allowing VA and FHA loan on their listings?
Yes.
Okay, let's talk about this. You mentioned a new contingency where sellers are saying that their acceptance is contingent upon the seller finding and securing a property within X number of days.
It's not necessarily a new contingency. It's always been an option, but it's definitely not one that we've seen up until 2020. That one started to become more popular, and now we're seeing it more and more. Really, though, I think probably the leaseback option is what is most popular, but the contingency for finding a place to go is definitely one that's being utilized as well.
And so that buyer's got to sit there and wait maybe 30, 60 days until this seller finds a place.
It's a negotiable timeline. I think a lot of what we're seeing is about 60 days. And most of the time, those sellers are actively looking, they're actively making offers. And so it's not necessarily unsafe for the buyer. It's just a little bit more unsure.
Okay, mortgage recasting. You mentioned this the other day. So you mentioned this is something that sellers are doing to keep from being homeless. If sellers can qualify for another loan on another house, then they can go ahead and get pre-qualified, buy their second house, and then work on selling their existing house. Take that lump sum equity that they get at closing, give it to their lender with their new mortgage, and have them recast their loan over 30 years to bring down that payment since they brought a bunch of principal to it and lowered their value of their loan.
It's definitely an option that I really encourage my buyers to explore. And I do have one specifically right now that we're utilizing that. And the reason why is not only is it helpful for them to be able to move into a home before they're having to sell their old home, it makes their offer more appealing because it takes away that house to sell risk.
I think most people would say that, well, that's great if I could afford 2 houses, but who can afford 2 houses? You know, what's a scenario where people can?
It can be situations where a homeowner purchased a home on their own, and then they've gotten married or have a significant other that's moved in with them and they're combining their incomes. It can be a job change or a job improvement. It can be a lot of different things. It can be simply that their first home they bought well below their means, made a good investment, and now they're able to move forward and utilize on that investment.
All right, let's talk about buyers for a minute. I think this is where we've got a lot to talk about in terms of, how to get your deal accepted. You mentioned earlier, cash buyers are a thing. I've bought, 2 this year, 5 last year, 4 the year before. I think I ended up buying with cash on all but one of those that I can think of. All of them have had multiple offers, other cash offers, and a significant number of loan offers. And in all those cases, obviously, cash won. I think what a lot of homeowners are trying to compete are saying, well, how do we get cash? People maybe from out of state think Californians sold their house and have a bunch of money. People are liquidating stocks, and I've done some of that to keep my portfolio going. And home equity lines of credit are something that people can use at least for potentially to buy a home or a large down payment. What are some scenarios where you're seeing that people may be able to come up with some cash to temporarily buy the house?
Well, I do know that there are situations where a lot of folks, especially millennials right now, are utilizing gifts from their parents. And it's a situation where that all has to be documented, traced. But just like how you mentioned close communication with your lender, these lenders, they make money when you purchase a house. And so just as hard as realtors are looking to find options and unique ways to secure a home and to maintain leverage in an multiple offer situation, lenders are digging in and doing their research and finding different ways and different products to offer as well. So it's always really important, just like how you mentioned, to have close conversation and openness and authenticity with your lender so that they can be able to provide you with the best options for your specific scenarios.
Let's talk about what crazy buyers are doing to make their offers stand out.
As far as creative ways that agents and buyers are finding to sort of beef up their offers, I heard a story about an agent who, when she was showing the property to her buyers, there was a bassinet by the bed, high chair in the kitchen, a lot of toys laying around. So it was obvious to that agent that these folks had a new baby. And so when her client said that they were ready to make an offer, she included with her offer a gift card for a dinner out and also offered to pay for the seller's babysitter.
Wow.
Because how difficult must it be to get your house market ready, accommodate all of those showings, all while trying to navigate being a new parent. It's a lot. They were really impressed with that. I think they felt really seen in that moment. And so they accepted that offer, and the listing agent told the buyer's agent that it was because of that sort of extra attention to detail.
Great story. Crazy. Let's see. You mentioned someone giving a week vacation in their timeshare.
Not everyone has that option to be able to offer a week's vacation in their vacation home. But there are folks who, it's again, thinking outside of the box, getting super creative. And they offered the sellers an all expenses paid trip to stay in their vacation home.
I think there's a lot of people that may not have that themselves, but it might be their extended family or friends who could offer up something like that to help their friends who are trying to win a deal. It may not cost the buyer directly or cost cash, but it could win the deal.
Yeah, that's right.
I heard of one where the buyers wrote in that they would bring pizza and beer to closing, and they accepted that deal and did that.
Oh, sign me up for that. But, they all want happy folks. So I think whatever gets the deal done and keeps people smiling.
As long as you bring enough beer for everybody.
As long as you're sharing. Yeah. As long as you're sharing, I think they're fine.
Okay, let's go back to capping repairs. So we're talking about what do buyers have to do, and you mentioned capping repairs. So if you're a buyer and you get a property inspected, which is something else we'll talk about, the inspection reports come back with just, 20, 30 pages. There's a couple of major things. Is this cap something people put on the front end? They say, I do want it to have an inspection, but I'm only going to cap it at only $2,000 or something, for example, so the seller doesn't have to worry.
It's definitely one of those meet in the middle compromises, which I think a lot of times it's tough to accomplish in this market. But that's definitely one of the ways we're able to do that. Inspections can be really scary for sellers because even though you may have taken really good care of your home, you never know what somebody's going to find. It's one of those situations where you want to keep especially when it comes to the dollars and cents, keep it as low risk as possible. And that makes it a sure thing. It also creates security for the buyers that they're not going to accept a property in as-is condition condition and then turn around and be on the hook for, mold remediation or a new HVAC or, a lot of those big ticket items. And so a lot of times it makes both parties more comfortable to know what they're agreeing to up front.
As I'm listening to you and thinking about this, I think this could be a great way for buyers. Think first-time buyer and you're scared of houses, don't know anything about any of this stuff, and you're having to give up your right to inspect it. That's got to be super scary for first-time buyers, right? Or really most buyers. I buy a lot of mine. I'm waiving my contingency when I buy these things. I'm a little crazy for doing that, right?
Well, not every buyer is going in there and crawling through the crawl space.
Thank you, Terry. No, but think about this. So your typical average buyer, they could keep the clause if I want to have it inspected, but they could write in there, I will limit my repairs to say $1,000. From a seller, they're like, okay, that's not bad. But what it would do for the buyer is to say, hey man, if there's some crazy stuff going on, I've got an out clause. Because without that contingency, man, it's yours no matter what. I think that could be something.
The other thing we're seeing is the inspection contingency still in place, but waiving the right to ask for repairs at all. And that's been another one that's a strong tool in this market that we're seeing often. But it's just like you said, it still provides that safety net and security for the buyers so that they know they're not stuck with potential lemon, but it also creates for the seller some reassurance that they're not going to be stuck having to make all kinds of minimal repairs in order to keep the deal on track and save those days on market.
The buyers are writing in their offer that they want an inspection, but they won't ask you for any money?
Yes, it's sort of like a take it or leave it situation.
I like this even better. A first-time buyer, a homeowner, they can still get inspected, so they got an out clause, but they're telling the seller up front, we're not going to ask for any money. We just want to know there's some major things wrong with it. That's pretty reasonable request. We just want to know what
we're purchasing. Yeah.
I like that one. We talked about appraisal gaps.
So what buyers are doing is when they're having to offer these super inflated purchase prices in order to secure a property, the next big risk that comes along with that is the appraisal. Will it appraise for that amount? Any offer that is being financed that isn't cash, the lender's going to require an appraisal. In order to sort of combat that risk, sellers are seeing buyers offer to pay towards the purchase price in the event that the appraisal comes back below what they've originally negotiated.
So those aren't for cash buyers, those are for loan buyers.
Right. If you're a cash buyer, there's no need to have an appraisal.
Yep. As the houses go up in value, there's a lag in the valuation that appraisers do. They're looking at sales of the last 6 months. Meanwhile, houses are going up 17% a year.
Well, and with inventory being so low, a lot of times it's hard to find those comparable properties too.
True.
Because there aren't a lot of sales happening in said neighborhood over the past 6 months. And so that's having an effect on those appraised values as well.
Are you writing a lot of appraisal gaps into your offers?
Every offer.
Wow. Let's talk about termite inspections. Conventional, they're not required. FHA and VA, they are required. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that falls back on that health and safety of the home that's such a concern for FHA and VA. They want to make sure that the termites aren't an issue.
Are you seeing a lot of homeowners waive their termite contingency?
It really depends. It depends on the buyer because termite treatment can be really expensive, upwards of $1,000. And so a lot of times with FHA and VA buyers, they're utilizing those loan types in order to keep cash in their pockets or because they don't have a lot of cash in their pocket. So to waive that contingency puts them at risk of a major financial repair. Sellers are hearing all day long from multiple different sources that it's a seller's market and you can get a lot of money and you don't have to do anything in order to secure the purchase price you want. They're digging their heels in when it comes to stuff like that because they can.
Well, Angela, I really appreciate your time. This has been fun. I look forward to doing another one of these. For the listeners, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. And Angela, what's the best way for our viewers to get in touch with you?
You know, I love a good text message, and my phone number is 423-598-2365. You can also find me on social media, on Facebook or on Instagram.
Be on the lookout for my next video where I'm going to go through house number 36 and show you exactly how much I spent on it, how much I spent on the remodel, how much it's currently worth, and therefore what my current equity position in it, as well as how much I'm getting for rent minus my monthly cost and how much I'm netting every month for cash flow. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you'll know when that video's out. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great week, and thank you for your support. Although I'm a licensed CPA and have 3 business degrees, own more than $7 million of real estate, and have more than $50,000 a month in rental property income, I'm just a guy on YouTube with my dog, so please be sure to contact your professional before making making any investment decision. IdentityGuard.com is now offering my subscribers a 33% discount on their services. See the link in the show notes below.